Hey guys, and welcome back to EQ Planes. And having just arrived in from Toronto on Air Transat's A330, I'm getting ready to head back home to Calgary on Porter's E2. Porter has to be one of the world's most hyped up airlines, now having been long infamous for their good service and product on their Q400s, and now having recently expanded to larger E2 jets as well. So, on this connection back home, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing if Porter lives up to all the hype around it. But now let's start out with the check-in process. By the time we arrived at Toronto Pearson, we were already checked in for our flight, as it was booked on a connecting itinerary made possible through a code share by Air Transat and Porter. However, during our connection, we did need to leave security, meaning that we'd have to walk back through the check-in hall and through security once again. However, as for our interactions with Porter's ground staff, they were definitely all positive and certainly no complaints there. Porter uses Terminal 3 at Toronto Pearson, which is a terminal that I haven't flown through in almost 11 years now. It was a pretty standard aircraft terminal, didn't find it overly crowded, and the options to eat and whatnot were pretty decent. And at the end of Terminal 3's satellite terminal, where our flight would be departing out of today, there was some pretty decent plane spotting where you could capture the aircraft taxiing out for a departure on runway 23. So, after doing some more plane spotting at the end of that satellite terminal, now it's time for our aircraft to come in today. Here we have Charlie Golf Kilo Quebec Kilo. This was Porter's second E2 to enter the fleet, delivered back in December of 2022, having taken its first flight just some months earlier in August of 2022. It's been incredibly interesting to see just how fast Porter has grown their E2 operations, as at the time of recording, Porter currently has 23 E2s in their fleet, which is absolutely crazy to think, especially considering that they haven't even been operating them for a year yet. That's more aircraft in the span of less than a year than Flair has in their entire fleet, which is definitely an unprecedented growth rate. However, it is assumed that Porter got a pretty good deal on these E2 aircraft, as they're now one of the E2's largest customers, and the E2 wasn't a very popular plane to begin with. But now, without further ado, let's get ready to board this Porter E2 on our way back to Calgary. When it comes to the configuration on this aircraft, Porter seats 132 people in Embraer's standard 2x2 configuration. All the economy seats on this aircraft are the exact same, however they offer 3 classes of service, that being Porter Reserve, Porter Stretch, and Porter Classic. Today I'd be seated in 10A, which is just your standard Porter Classic seat. Porter Stretch seats will offer you a little bit of extra legroom, while Porter Reserve will offer you a free meal, some extra legroom on top of that, along with the benefits of being seated near the front of the aircraft. When it comes to my initial impressions of the E2, the first thing I noticed was the window alignment. Although the windows are large, they do seem to be misaligned with most of the seats in Porter's aircraft for whatever reason. However, other than that, the aircraft was definitely quite modern, considering it is nearly brand new. The E2 does also offer 2x2 seating, which is an advantage in my eyes because there are no middle seats on board the aircraft. However, the bins are a little bit smaller than you would find on an aircraft like the 737 MAX 8. However, I'll talk more about the cabin and the interior when we get in the air. In the meantime, enjoy this incredibly quiet takeoff from Toronto Pearson. now that we're in the air, let's take a closer look at what Porter has to offer in terms of their seat. When it comes to legroom, it was definitely passable for a person who was 6'3", but certainly wasn't wonderful. Pretty much in line with what you would find with other Canadian airlines. Same can be said with the seat padding. I found it to be relatively comfortable, but certainly not the most comfortable I've ever sat in. And when it comes to the tray table, it was a decent size and decently above the knees as well, so certainly no complaints there. However, for an airline that seems to market itself as having an exceptionally better economy experience than other Canadian airlines, I found the seat to be pretty mid. Although it certainly isn't a seat that anybody complain about, it wouldn't really leave anybody in awe either. But now let's take a closer look into the back seat pocket on Porter's E2, where you have your standard E2 safety card, along with a Porter menu for the Porter Cafe, where you can buy certain onboard snacks that they provide, along with also having the option to be given a snack for free in higher classes of service. Porter does also offer free drink services and free wine and beer on board as well. Porter also has what is now becoming an increasingly rare sight on airlines after COVID, but an in-flight magazine. Definitely something I miss seeing on other Canadian airlines like WestJet and Air Canada, for whatever reason. And when it comes to service in standard economy, you were offered a chocolate chip banana bread along with your standard drink service as well. When it comes to the E2 as an aircraft, it certainly is quite the enjoyable ride. The E2 has to be one of the quietest aircraft I've ever flown on, while also providing nice large windows. I also do enjoy the 2x2 seating that is offered by an aircraft that is effectively a beefed up regional jet. That being said, it does still suffer from some of the side effects of being that beefed up regional jet. With that being said, though, I do still think it is a bit of a step behind the A320neo and 737 MAX in terms of cabin comfort. Another interesting note is that Porter does appear to be using the standard E2 seats, as in this video you can see a E2 which was displayed at the Paris Air Show that we were fortunate enough to tour, and they are the exact same economy seats that Porter are using on their aircraft. Another big selling point for Porter's E2s are the fact that they do offer free Wi-Fi on board, which is a first of its kind in Canada. And when it comes to the lavatories on the aircraft, they certainly were a little bit narrow, but definitely not something that I would complain too much about. Anyways, enjoy this landing into Calgary YYC, and stick around for my final thoughts on the aircraft and the airline. Overall, I think Porter was a good experience, and I would recommend it to anybody that may be going somewhere that Porter flies. However, I do also think that it doesn't quite live up to all the hype that you hear about it. When it comes to the onboard service, I find that the free Wi-Fi and the no middle seats are the two main things they have going for them over other Canadian airlines. However, I find that the hard product and the service on board tends to be on par, if not possibly even a little worse than some other Canadian airlines. So although it is a good economy experience, I wouldn't go as far as to say that it is one of the world's best economy experiences. In practice, when flying a route like Calgary to Toronto, I just fly with whoever has the cheapest airfare or whoever you collect points with. So in the end, although I do think they are overrated, they certainly are a good airline. And as a Canadian av geek, I'm really interested in seeing how they will affect Air Canada and WestJet's position in the market with their relatively ambitious expansion plans as they're looking to move to almost 75 aircraft. Anyways, I'd like to thank you guys for watching and hope to see you guys back next time.